Have you ever heard of a ship so large, so imposing, that to this day it haunts the seas with horror stories? The RMS Queen Mary is not only a marvel of engineering, but a place where lives were lost in inexplicable ways and spirits still roam the corridors. What really goes on inside this gigantic vessel? Get ready to discover the macabre secrets that no one has ever told. But before we start, subscribe to the channel and leave your like, because you won't want to miss this story. Let's go. I will reveal something that possibly you don't even imagine before the Second World War. World breakout. England and Nazi Germany was already competing indirectly to see which nation it was more influential. One way to measure this is it happened through those who owned the biggest ships. It was from this rivalry that arose in 1936 the ocean liner RMS Queen Mary, built by the British. While sailing, and even after being, how can I say, disabled, he gained the reputation of being haunted, accumulating stories and more stories of terror. And then you have the courage to listen. If not, it is better. Go have a coffee and come back later. That's fine. Well, let's move on. First, let me tell you a little bit about the emergence of this giant vessel. In 1930s, Hitler, the famous Nazi dictator, had not yet formally attacked no one. He only displayed its power to the world, investing heavily in new creations such as airplanes and ships. As soon as the Germans launched a huge and strong boat, the English felt they should respond at the same level. And of course, this response took shape in the colossal RMS Queen Mary, with ocean more than 310 meters long and 55 meters wide height. It was certainly not planned for people with lower purchasing power, if you know what I mean. With all the luxury possible at that time, casinos and theaters, bars, restaurants, only for the European elite, enjoyed the trips. This lasted until 1939, when finally the Second World War began. With its power and speed, the ocean liner was requisitioned in the conflict to take troops and supplies. Then, with the end of the fighting in 1945, the ship returned to commercial crossings. But before receiving civilians again, it passed for a reform to democratize their travel. In 1967, after a good period sailing, he was finally retired. I'll tell you where he is soon, but take it easy. Calm down. The most important thing for nows we today are the ones who, while active crossing the seas, many people claim to have lived scary, supernatural moments on the ship. The first one I want to share with you started on June 10, 1966. Marcelo Rosen, a worker in the area of machines with only 18 years, died accidentally after being crushed through an automatic door. He miscalculated the time, closing, and when trying to cross in the final moments, door number 13 pressed him. His body practically split in half. However, according to the story, even if so he lost his life there, never you abandoned the RMS Queen Mary. There are countless the testimonies of those who worked on the vessel and even of visitors claiming to have crossed paths with Marcelo corridors as if it had become deeply connected to the ship. Most of these narratives are practically the same. While walking through the machinery sector, in some moment, a sudden urge to look arises, to back. And then when you turn around, damn, there's that man, dirty with grease, wearing old clothes and showing an unshaven beard. He keeps following you, but it seems just another worker working there. However, upon arriving right near the door, 13, the same as led him to death, he simply disappears. Scary, don't you think? I myself get all goosebumps. Our next story also begins in a tragic episode that occurred on board. In fact, there was several fatalities in that place, something you will notice throughout this video. Moving on, in cabin K474, one night, apparently common, a family was staying there, a couple and 2 daughters. But at that time, due to an unexplained outbreak, the husband strangled his wife and one of the girls in their own bed. After committing these 2 murders, he was into the bathroom and took the life of the other daughter, before killing herself. The daughter who was killed last, the one who witnessed the execution of his mother and sister too, would never have left the ship. Her name was Sophie. Travelers and tourists say they have already seen the little girl, walking through the corridors. Some, even without seeing her. They say they hear their childish laughter or the sound of their mischief. Sophie is one of the most important presences, famous RMS Queen Mary, and was even investigated by a group ghost hunter specialized in this type of phenomenon. As reported by the team during the TV shows, Sophie appeared to them several times in the form of shadows, bright spots in photographs. Another case, well known involving Sophie, comes from passengers who saw her near the second-class swimming pool in wing reserved for those who occupied the same social standard. They claim that she, at times, stays there crying because she is lost from her mother. Regrettable, isn't it? Our next case suggests that the Queen Mary was in some way destined to something special. During your construction, in 1930, the welder Fabricio Munhoz was involved in an accident in the generator room and died. Today, this space is considered one of the most gloomy ocean liner. Visitors report feeling, pulling or touching even when no one is around. Objects change places, strange voices seem to come out of the tubes, and occasionally a figure appears. Mysterious. There's also a hole in the ceiling created to disperse heat from the environment. Many say, having seen a guy looking up from above who disappeared without explanation. When the person who sees it, call another to confirm if you are really seeing something or no. Macabre, right? The sounds heard in this environment resemble voices of people working, hammering, metal twisting, noises of tools moving, all very scary. According to legend, Fabricio would still be there, performing their duties without realizing that, in fact, has already departed from this world. So what do you think about this? There is also haunting situations on the Queen Mary in which the spirit is not even identified. I am talking about places where there are countless stories of paranormal activity. For example, cabin L501, which is called here Room L501. Guests and employees who stayed there were always reporting a succession, problems, strange knocks, voices, that feeling of being poked or dragged, bizarre noises, including sheets, torn and belongings disappearing out of nowhere. The thing was so recurrent that those responsible decided to keep the locked room. However, even so, whoever stayed in the neighboring cabins kept hearing bizarre sounds coming from inside. So they decided, remove everything from that room at once, trying to finish definitely with the reports. But nothing changed. Who sleeps near L501 claims to never be alone, as the stories say. And finally, let's talk about one of the most popular appearances. Who scares people on the RMS Queen Mary? The girl, Bianca Arias. According to the story, she drowned in the glass pool after entering there in a time when the area was closed and without the knowledge of the parents. His fate, according to what is narrated, was never leave the ship. There are even videos and audio recordings that supposedly show Bianca speaking out and talking. She would be the one who leaves clues of his appearances. Many people report that if she sympathizes with Gunyu, she can answer certain questions. Some say that if it is treated with affection, Bianca, that's what she's called, can even sing a paid music or playing with other children in the pool. A ship employee claims to have had direct contact with her while taking care of maintenance, the pool. On a day like any other, this woman claims to have heard a laugh, which could only be a child. A girl, you see. She looks around, enters in the pool, and you don't see anyone, just the water. Keeps moving as if someone were swimming there. The giggles continue. Suddenly the water becomes quiet, but in the edge of the pool appear footprints, as if a little girl had just left there, walking to the locker room before disappearing. Sinister, don't you think? Yes, if one day you feel like seeing all of this up close, know that the RMS Queen Mary is today a tourist spot open to visitors. It is docked in the port of Long Beach, California, operating as a hotel and also as a museum. However, be careful. You must have already realized that the risk can lurking in every corner of that place. I'll finish here. By the way, I'm going back to my office. Take a large hug and see you soon.